Okay, I'm going to show you how to factor on the free Casio calculator. And to do this, we go down to the equation menu. So go down to the equation menu, hit execute, and we're going to use the polynomial area, F2. So either hit F2 or click on the word poly. Now you look at what power the equation is, and this is for second or third degree equations. Like this is a second degree equation, so is this one. You look for the highest power. I have one cubic equation here. But anyway, this one, we'll do this one first. It's a second degree equation, so just either hit F1 or hit degree 2. And now you can see the format. You type in your A, B, and C, and the A is the number before the x squared. Well, this problem has x squared here. So how many x squareds are there? 1. So I just type in 1, hit execute. If this would have been negative x squared, then that coefficient right there would have been negative 1. The B is the number before the x. So the number before the x here is not 4, it's negative 4. So type in negative 4, hit execute, and then type in your constant right here. Even if this is in a different format, like if it would have said negative 5 plus x squared minus 4x, it's not what comes first, it's what number does not have an x. Well, that would be negative 5 right here. So type in negative 5, that's your C. Once you get those in, you click solve. Now, those are the solutions, and sometimes they want the solution, like if this said x squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0, those are your solutions, x equals 5 and x equals negative 1. But we want factors. So right now, let me write down the two solutions, x equals 5, so that's x equals 5, and x equals negative 1. Now, that's not your solutions yet. What you have to do is that's your solutions, not your factors. To get your factors, these numbers have to be on the opposite side of the equal sign. They need to be on the same side as the x. So subtract 5 from both sides, and this factor is x minus 5. And then same sort of thing here. Add 1 to both sides to get the negative 1 on the other side, and you get x plus 1. And you can confirm that this is, in fact, the answer to the problem, because you can multiply these back together. If you would multiply these back together, FOIL them together, the x times the x is x squared. So I'll just show you that this is the right answer. And then you have to take the x times the 1, well that's plus 1x or just plus x. Take the negative 5, here's your enter, negative 5 times x is minus 5x. And then minus 5 times 1 is minus 5. And then if you combine the like terms, we get x squared, and 1x minus 5x is minus 4x. So we'd have x squared, then we'd have minus 4x, and again that's from combining the 1x minus 5x is minus 4x, and then we have that minus 5 right there. And so you can see that's exactly the problem we started off with. This is just checking it. But you get your solutions off the calculator, like we got, and then you just move your values to the other side of the equation, which changes the sign. Let's try this next one. I'll hit right here, F1, or repeat, so I can type in new coefficients. Again, this is a second degree equation, so I'll type in my coefficients of 18, execute, then a negative 9, then a negative 35. Once you get those locked in, click the solve, and you can see that these aren't whole numbers. Well, if you look off to your right here, you can see that they give you the fractional answer, and that's what we need. So this first answer, or solution, which is not a factor, is x equals 5/3. So let me write that down here. So down here, I'm going to write down the first answer of x equals, I think it was 5/3. In fact, let me write it real neat here so you can see it. So x equals 5/3. And then the other answer, we'll deal with that one in a second. But that's a solution, not a factor, just like we had before. Now you don't get the solution by just moving the 5/3 over, because you have to clear the fractions first. To clear the fraction, you multiply by the common denominator, which is 3. So you just multiply by 3, or think of cross multiplying, and you'll have 3x equals 5. All I did there was it just multiplied both sides by 3. If you multiply by 3 here, the 3's cancel. Multiply by 3 here, you have 3x. Or just think of these being multiplied together. Now move that 5 over, and you have the factor 3x minus 5. Do the same thing with the other solution. Let's take a look at the other solution. So if I arrow down, I have negative 7, 6. So that would be the same as x equals negative 7, 6. I'll write it in right here. X equals negative 7, 6. Cross multiply, and you'll have, and I'll write it here off the side, cross multiply, and you get 6x equals negative 7. Okay, just cross multiply. Put that 6 with the x. Then take the 7 to the other side, which will change its sign, and you'll have 6x plus 7. And that's the two factors right there. This would be a rather difficult one to factor by hand, but there it is, completely factored for you. Now what I always do is I check and make sure the first two terms, when you multiply them together, you get the first term here. Well, 3x times 6x, 3 times 6 is 18. And x times x is x squared. So we're good. Let's take a look at the next one. And on the next one, you might notice that there actually is a common factor. One of the first things you do when factoring is see if there's a common factor. And this does have a common factor of 2. A 2 factors out of each one. But let's say you didn't even notice that the 2 factors out. Well, we go straight to the calculator and hit exit. We can put in our coefficients, which are 6, an 8, and a negative 8, and then hit solve, and we get this answer, which is a fraction. Now what we'll have to do is just think of this being x equals 2/3. The 3 gets moved up with the x, making it 3x equals 2, and the 2 gets moved over. So it's actually 3x minus 2. And you get better with doing that the more you do it. All I'm doing is the same as what we did up here. See, that's 6x plus 7 is what the factor is from this. 6x plus 7. So the same thing is going on with this one, is that 3, see this is 3x minus 2. You can just say this number goes with the x and change the sign of that one. So 3x minus 2. And then the other one, right down here, is just negative 2. So you just have to take that to the other side and you get x plus 2. Now, the thing that you'll notice on this one, so there's my two factors. The thing you'll notice is if you take this, the 3x, times the x, you get 3x squared, not 6x squared. So what this has is an additional factor of 2 that factored out. Now probably most of you notice that there is a common factor of 2 since 2 goes into 6 and 8, and this 8 too. So the 2 goes into these three numbers, so there's a common factor of 2. But if you didn't see that, then if you check this by multiplying them back together, you don't get 6x squared, you get 3x squared. And since 6 is 2 times bigger than 3, we need to put the 2 out in front. And that's that thing completely factored. Okay? Let's go to the fourth one. On this one, let's just give ourselves a little bit more space. On this one, you can see it's clear up to a cube. But you might notice that there's a common factor of x, since all these have an x with it, so you could factor out an x. And you also might notice that there's a common factor of 2. That would be the nice thing to notice, because then we won't have to deal with it later. But if you don't notice that, then we can still use the calculator to do this problem. So let's do that. So I'm going to do this one right here. So here we go. So I could hit exit, and I'm going to hit exit again because this one's a cubic. So let's go to 3, degree 3, and put in my coefficients. So you can see the a is the number before the x cubed, and on this problem that would be 6. Then the b is the number before the x squared, which would be 8. The c is the number before the x, which is negative 8. And then the d is any constant I have at the end. Well, there is no constant at the end, so I'll just leave that be 0. Once you get those in, just hit execute or hit solve, and you'll get these values. Now this one is a decimal, and here's the fractional answer. So this is going to be the factor 3x minus 2. Again, just think of cross multiplying 3x minus 2. So let's go up here, and that is 3x minus 2. Again, what you could be thinking of on that one was it's the fraction. See, the calculator fraction answer was x equals, let me put that in here. It was, I think it was 2/3 is what that was. 2/3. Let me just double check. Yep, 2/3. And see, you cross multiply, so that's 3x. So that gives you 3x equals 2 by cross multiplying. Then move the 2 over to the other side, and that's where the 3x minus 2 came from. The second factor on this one was 0. Well, that's like saying this. X equals 0. If you take 0 to the other side of the equation, you just have x minus 0. But anything minus 0 is just that same thing back. That's just x. So this factor right here, the second factor where it says of solution 0, is the same as the factor just x. And generally people put that factor out in front. And then the next factor is -2. So just take that to the other side. See, I'll show you it says -2 there. You just take the -2 to the other side and you get x plus 2. So that's x plus 2. And there's that one completely factored. If you multiply this together and then take the x through, you will get the equation that we started off with. Let's see what else we have here. And this one has y's in it. I'll show you the way that works. So we can't put in y's and that sort of thing. So what we do is we just, let me go and actually exit out of this so I can get back to a second degree equation. And I'll put in my coefficients of 6, 8, and -8, and solve it. And I get these factors. Again, I get 2/3. Now, that when you cross multiply, it's going to be 3x minus 2. Okay, we've done that before. You just cross multiply 3x. Think of this as being x equals 2/3. The 3 goes up there with the x. 3x equals 2. Now take the 2 over 3x minus 2. Or write it down how I have been doing that. 3x minus 2. And then the other factor is just plain old, or solution is -2. So the factor is x plus 2. Now, that's what the answer would be if a couple things. One is it didn't have the y's, and plus there's a common factor of 2 here. See, 2 goes into 6, 2 goes into 8, and 2 goes into 8. And I also know that there's a common factor of 2 because when I take the 3x times the x, I get 3x squared, not 6x squared. Well, 6 is 2 times bigger than the 3x squared that I get. So I need to put a common factor of 2 out front. See, 2 goes into each of these. Got to put that out front. And now, the y's. Well, how can I get -8y squared? Well, -2 times 2 is -4 times the 2 is -8. So I see where the -8, I'm going to get that. The -8 comes from doing -2 times 2 is -4 times that 2 that's out there, it gives me -8. But how can I get y squared? I can only get a y squared if I put a y, and this is the key thing, as I have to put a y at the end of each term. Now see, when I take the -2y times the +2y, I get 4y squared, and 4y squared times that 2, actually -2y times 2y is -4y squared, times 2 more gives me -8y squared. So these right here are my factors. If I would multiply all this stuff together, I will get this right here. And I think that might do it for this video, and I'll do more factoring on the next video.